Side note, guys, like, why are bagels delicious? Hello, book bestie, and welcome back to my channel. If I'm a new face to you, my name is Lauren, aka Lauren Page Reads on Instagram and TikTok, and today we are doing my January reading wrap up. And I'm really excited about this one because this is the first reading wrap up that I'm doing of 2025, and I will give you a little like spoiler. I hit my goal perfectly. I'm so proud. In this wrap up, I will be sharing with you how many books I read, the genres I read, how I read them, and the total pages. We're not going to get into the page spread per month because that's really boring because we've only had 1 month this year already. But I just want to say, go ahead and get cozy, get a nice warm blanket, get a nice cup of tea or a little snack. I have both in front of me. And let's dive into my January wrap up. Like I mentioned in my little spoiler, January was just how I wanted it to be. I've set a goal to read 120 books in 2025. And if you average that out per month, that's about 10 books a month, or like, I think like 2.5 to 2.75 books a week. That's pretty doable for me. So I really paced myself during January and I was able to hit the 10 books. Now, I did read 141 books last year in 2024, but some of the months I was like reading 14 plus books, and that's just like not sustainable. So this time I'm really focusing on reading books and pacing myself with them and not trying to read books like super fast to hit the goal or anything like that. Out of those 10 books, 4 were on my Kindle, 5 were audiobooks, and 1 was a physical book. It was kind of weird this month. In terms of pages, I managed to read just over 2,200 pages, which I think is still pretty good considering half of the books that I read were audiobooks. As for genre spread, according to Storygraph, 4 were fantasy books, 3 were thrillers, and 3 were mystery books. And if you are curious about any of the books that I mention in this video, there is a link in the description below. I title it Get the Books, and it will take you to a full list of all of the books that I read in January. Another quick note, make sure that you are following me on Goodreads so that you can stay up to date on any of my little adventures, thoughts, ratings, anything like that, so you don't have to wait until January every month to see what I think about a certain book. And now it is time to get into my favorite portion of these videos. It's what I think on each of the books. This year we are doing something a little special with it, okay? Because I am doing a Starburst Granny Square for each book that I read this year, and I am making a blanket with all the books I read, and I've done the math. This is also why I'm trying to pace myself really well. I've done the math. 10 granny squares across, 12 down, makes a very comfortable lap size blanket. Okay, and now I have plans for the border, for the backing. I've got it. The new section is going to include not only the book cover, but I'm also going to give you a peep of the granny square that I made with it. Now, keep in mind, these are scrappy. I'm not necessarily going out to buy this certain color yellow to match with this book cover. No, I'm not doing that. If the cover is yellow, I'll use the yellow I have. If that doesn't work, I'll use a different color. So I'm trying to be like very low cost with this blanket, use up the yarn I have, and also make something that's like really special for me. And at the end, I'm gonna reveal the current progress of the blanket each month so we can watch the blanket grow. And I have the first row sitting in front of me, and I'm so excited to show you guys the progress because it's kind of cool. Actually, it's not kind of cool, it's pretty cool. Okay, now it is time to get into the wrap-ups. First up is Murder with a View by Diane Kelly, and this is the third in the House Flipper mystery series that's set in Nashville. I read the other 2 in December, and I think there's like 4 more books in this series. I've just put it on a gentle pause right now. I do want to continue the series. I rated this book, Murder with a View, 4 stars. Overall, I really enjoyed being in Nashville and this new venture that Whitney and her cousin took on, renovating this motel, was really cute, and they're turning it into condos for pre-sale. So kind of up my alley with my job. So I understood what they were talking about a lot. And honestly, this book has more Nashville vibes than the second book, and I would say even more than the first book. The first book was more like business Nashville vibes, and this one was more culture Nashville vibes. I also really liked the blooming romance between Whitney and Detective Colin, who always seems to land their cases when Sawdust the cat inevitably ends up discovering a body on their latest property. And side note, we need to get that poor kitty into therapy. This is the 3rd body he has discovered. That poor kitty cat. Book number 2 of January was Iron Flame by Rebecca Yarros. I listened to Fourth Wing back in December on Audible. No, not Audible. I listened to it on Libby, but it was an audiobook. And I listened to this one the same way to prep for Onyx Storm. And now that I'm currently reading Onyx Storm, yes, I'm reading it right now. I'm just taking it like really slow, like 30 to 50 pages a day. Don't judge. It's being... Well, it really benefited me to have listened and immersed myself into the world slowly so that I knew what was going on. And I did that kind of on purpose, kind of not, a happy accident situation. But on this reread of Iron Flame, I rated this one 4 stars. Now, I enjoyed this reread much more than the first time. The first time I was like, they have a miscommunication trope and it's really annoying and blah blah, and for the longest time I didn't want to reread the book because I was like, miscommunication trope. And yes, that is a thing, but in this one you kind of have context for it. You understand why, you understand what's going to happen at the end for the cliffhanger, and it's also, it makes sense why Violet's upset, why Xaden's upset, all of this. And you know, they love each other, and at the end of the day, like, they're like ride or dies. So it's not as a big of like, are they gonna break up situation. It's more of a, this is just a little riff in our relationship and we need to work through it. So it wasn't as annoying the second time through. I did find myself just being like, Xaden, just tell her what she needs to know. Just tell her. And another thing is, like, every time I immerse myself into a fantasy world reread, the political dynamics are easier for me to understand each time I go through them. So it's just, I'm understanding the layout of the military because I'm not familiar with it, you know, but I was getting more familiar with it, like do's, don'ts, and I think that also helped me getting into Onyx Storm. Also, did anybody else think this was just going to be a 3-book series? Apparently it's 5. I thought this was the last one. I thought it was 3 books. Oh, another quick thing about Iron Flame. I had forgotten key plot details. I would have been shooketh if I went into Onyx Storm not knowing these details. The 3rd book was Ward D by Frida McFadden, yes, by the Queen, and I listened to this one on audiobook via Libby. I rated this one 3.5 stars. Do not come for me, okay? Do not come for me. Was it good? Yes. Was it spooky and creepy? Also yes. Was it classic Frida? Yes. But was the main character so annoying that I had to text my stepsister, aka fellow Frida fan, and complain to her about it? Yes. Yes. The main character was annoying and naive. Like, it's set in a psych ward, okay? And the main character, for some reason, even though she's a medical student, it's like her second or third year in it, she has no compassion or sympathy or any type of understanding for the patients. She's just like, there's something wrong with them. I'm scared to go in the psych ward. And yeah, she is, at the end of the book, she is rightfully, like, she she should have been afraid to go into the psych ward, but not because of the patients. The patients were perfectly kind and nice to her. Also, she really lacked common sense. Common freaking sense. Connect to the Wi-Fi of the hospital to get your text messages. Wi-Fi calling, girly. Come on. And this was a bit frustrating, but I've been finding myself leaning more this way with every Frida book I get to. And I don't know if it's just me maturing and being like, are adults actually like thinking like this? Or I don't know. I do still really enjoy Frida's books. They're still really good. They're nice weekend reads. I love them. I just get really annoyed with her main characters. Also, Never Lie is still probably my favorite book by her. Book number 4 of January was A Sea of Unspoken Things by Adrienne Young, and I rated this one 4 stars. Also, I want to say a quick thank you to Random House Publishing Group and Miss Young for allowing me to be an early reader of this book. I really liked it. It was well paced and completely absorbing. Was it as mind-melting and mind-bending as June Farrow? Not really, but it was still really good, and the love story that was woven in through the plot was heart-melting. Like, it was just lovely. And I think that's what Adrienne Young is known for in her thriller, magical realism, romance books. It's like touch of romance, okay? Not real romance, but touch. And I'm not going to give anything away about this ending, but I did finish reading this book on my snow day weekend vlog that I posted a couple weeks back. So if you want to go watch my reaction and watch me make the square for this one, go ahead and check out that video. I'll link to it up here, because also the next couple books I mentioned I read and or finished in that vlog. So don't miss out on my live reactions, okay? The 5th book I read in January was a novel love story by Ashley Poston, and I rated this one 4.5 stars. And once again, I listened to this one on audiobook, and shout out to Libby and public libraries for allowing audiobooks to be accessible. Just thank you. I also read this one on my snow day weekend vlog while I was tidying up, cooking, just doing odds and ends around the house. So I did read a lot of this book during that vlog, and I think, yeah, I finished it. For sure, I finished it. It is such a sweet book, and it is definitely meant for a reader who really enjoys romances, or if you are just getting into the romance genre, like the contemporary romance genre. This is such a good like way to get into it, because it's kind of the meta culture around romance readers and how we're not just contemporary romance readers, but we like romantasy, we like all different kinds, and it spreads across genres. I would say the best part about a novel love story was the growth and self-awareness that our main character Eileen develops throughout the book. This book broke my heart, and then it repaired what it had broken. It was very responsible. Honestly, it's a really reassuring book to read if you find yourself in your mid to late 20s, brokenhearted after a relationship that you thought was going to be like your great love story ends. Like either unexpectedly or expectedly in some type of way, but it's not the happily ever after that you thought you would be getting. Book number 6 of January was Carvel by Stephanie Garber, and I rated this one a solid 4 stars. I read this one in 24 hours on that snow day reading vlog, and I have Legendary waiting for me. I'm looking at it right now over on my bookshelf behind the camera. Such a good book. Yes, it's YA romantasy, before romantasy was like even a term back in 2017. But my goodness, it was addicting to read. I don't know if that's because it was YA. I don't know. Anyways, so good. And the very best compliment that I have for this book, I also said in my reading vlog of it, is that reading it is as trippy as I can imagine being in Carnival would be. Like, reading it kind of felt not like hallucinogenic, like that's a weird way, but it felt very disjointed-y at times, and like, oh, we sped up in time, or how did she get here but we didn't see. And that's how I can imagine actually being in Carnival would be like. So I don't know if that was Stephanie Garber's intentions or if I just really sucked at reading that weekend, but it added to the thrill of it for me. I will say, I wish that the clues that were given to Scarlett to solve the whole mystery of Carnival, I wish that they had been a little bit more accessible or more fun for the reader to solve alongside Scarlett, and make it kind of interactive. Like in mystery books, I'm like, ooh, go to this person, or ooh, go here, or you know, whatnot. In this book, it kind of wasn't like that. So I was kind of bummed out by that, but overall, really good story. The next book that I read was Murder on the Brighton Express by C.J. Archer, and I rated it 3.75 stars, even though I started a mystery series on the 9th book. Do not come for me. I found it on Spotify, okay? And I needed a book to listen to while I did my nails. This is a cozy mystery series that's set in London at the turn of the 20th century, and Cleopatra Fox, aka Cleo, is a private investigator who is looking to solve the murder of a woman who was blackmailing her and then traveling back on the same train as her from Brighton to London. There are twists and turns, budding romances, and suspects abound in this book. And this is where you start to tell that I am taking a pause of current day Nashville and going back in time to this beautiful, idyllic London lifestyle that I'm sure did not actually exist, but I'm just having fun camping out there for a while. Book number 8 of January was Legendborn by Tracy Dion, and I rated it 4.25 stars. For the first 75% of this book, I was highly confused and just vibing because the magic system did not make sense to me in the way that it was set up, and also the way it was explained, but it wasn't explained in a info dump way. It was explained in the as you go, we're just having a normal conversation and you're learning bits and pieces kind of way. Still, I was confused, but the vibes were vibing and I just kept reading it. Because I also can't remember, but I feel like a booktuber on here, possibly Heather, recommended reading this book. So I did it. And mainly I kept going in this book because the mystery elements, you know, like that, were so good. Our main character is Bree, who is a 16-year-old girl who has recently lost her mother, and she gets accepted into an early college program at UNC Chapel Hill. And I live about an hour away from there, so I'm sort of familiar with the location. One day, Bree encounters some demons, and apparently King Arthur's knights of the Round Table are still around in a way at UNC Chapel Hill. But not only are these like knights around, they have demon hunting abilities. The only catch of this whole situation is that Bree should not be able to see these demons, and she wants to get to the bottom of why she can't, and see if her mother's untimely death is somehow connected to these said demons. Oh, we gotta do another little tea break. Book number 9 of January was Murder at the Mayfair Hotel by C.J. Archer, and I rated this one 4 stars. It is the first one in the Cleopatra Fox series. Okay, so I read book 9, and then I loved book 9 so much, I'm going back and I'm reading through the whole series. And I will give you a quick note, don't be like me and start with book 9. Go back and start through the whole series at book 1, because there were so many key details and like little nuances that I'd missed, and I'm currently reading book 2 as well, and just building on these characters and the relationships that they have with one another, I'm probably going to go back and reread book 9 at some point. But a guest is murdered at Cleo's new home at the Mayfair Hotel, her uncle's hotel. She can't help but be drawn to helping Scotland Yard get to the bottom of this mystery. And she kind of gets herself in danger's way along solving this mystery. The 10th and final book that I read in January was The 5-Year Lie by Serena Brown, and I rated this one 4.25 stars. I haven't read any of Bowen's other books, but apparently she writes contemporary romances, and this was her first jaunt out of the genre. I really liked this thriller, and I really like the fact that she didn't stray too far away from contemporary romance, but instead she put a fun thriller twist on it. The love story between our main character Ariel and her ex Drew is heavily woven throughout the story. Ariel is the daughter of CEO of Chime Doorbell Company, where it's kind of like Ring doorbells, okay? But they work more heavily with the police. There's some interesting situations going on. And suddenly Drew, who was working for her father's company that summer, disappears one day. And Ariel finds out a week later that she is pregnant. Now jump forward 5-ish years, and Ariel has a 4-year-old little boy named Buzz, and just some weird feelings start to arise because law enforcement has made some questionable decisions and actions. And as Ariel digs deeper and deeper, she can't help but think that Drew's sudden disappearance, along with her father's death, are all tied to this mystery. And this is one of the few thrillers that I've read that has left me with tears of joy and happiness in my eyes. Like, I finished listening to the audiobook, I paused it, and I said, what a sweet ending to a thriller. Like, I was so happy. So weird. Okay, guys, as promised, since that was the 10th book, here is my current progress on my reading blanket. You'll see that I've outlined them all in a blue. I think I'm gonna find a pale pink to do for February's. Here it is. This is the first book. This is, oh, so maybe actually it goes like this. Does it? No. It's gonna go like that because I'll be looking at it. Yeah, it goes like that. It goes whichever way it needs to go, honestly. But first book, last book. Yay! It's so cool. And essentially my plan is to have each month be a row in this blanket. I don't know how that's going to work out. I don't know if I'll be able to limit myself to 10 books a month, and I don't know what to do if one month I accidentally read 8 or 9 and the next month I read 11 or 12, and how we're going to balance that out. We're just going to vibe and see what happens, okay? Like, we're going to vibe. Thank you so much for watching my January reading wrap up, and now I would like to hear from you. Did you read any of these books that I mentioned in this video? Did you have different opinions? Did you have different thoughts on them? Or were my ratings and assessments of each book accurate? Also, if you have any suggestions for books that I should read in February, let me know in the comments below, and you might just see it in my February reading wrap-up video. If you enjoyed watching this video, consider giving it a thumbs up, and don't forget to subscribe and ring the bell so that you never miss out on a video that I post. I post a new bookish video for you to enjoy every Friday afternoon. And until next time, book bestie, happy reading. Bye!